All right, we are officially recording now. Congratulations. So,
Nice.
if you want everyone to see who you are and your lovely faces, then no, you may stay up and out and awake with your camera on and steady. All right. I guess so. Since I skipped, what were you about to say before we initially started about the introduction? Do you remember?
Yes, start.
Yeah.
All right, did I start it? I started. Okay, so I'm starting on my end. Just might as well get some practice in. All right. So what I was saying is, uh, read through the introduction, and it's kind of like with that thing where they say, "I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to tell you that I tell you what I told you." And so he outlines the path that he's going to take and why. He talks about his previous book on color and culture and how it was a surprising hit, and so he decided, since that was just kind of like the surface of his thoughts, he wanted to go deeper. And at the outset, he talks about different philosophers and different scientists throughout history who have tried to, and contemporarily, who have tried to talk about color and kind of where he thinks they fall short that justifies him venturing into the territory. He's like, here's why I'm here. I'm here because even though these people have talked about colors, like here are some areas where I think they have kind of maybe missed something that I think I can bring to the table. And so he just tells us what he thinks he can bring that other people have missed. And primarily, it's the combination, it's the interdisciplinary aspect of the clear theory, because he's like, I don't remember, like he quoted, I think, like Immanuel Kant and a few other philosophers, and he was like, this is the way they approach it, but I feel like these are the questions they are asking, and they neglect like the historical aspect. And like the historical people, they get a more robust, they get a more robust understanding of the field, because they're dealing with actual human experience and actual history and the way it was used. He
Mm-hmm.
was like, but then they don't do enough like research and enough thinking about like the underlying principles to be able to like really like pull out a whole lot of utility from it. He talks about some seeming contradictions. They're like kind of how like you talk about how one, like every color can become every other color, or one emotion can become every other emotion. Like he
Yeah.
kind of points to that in a sense that is like they're like the Mayan culture, and they seem to use this color in this way. Is like, but then there's this other culture on the other side of the world, and they seem to use it in this way. And so, like, he's like, I'm not entirely certain what to make of that, but we're gonna go and explore it and talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the setup he gives us in the introduction. That's really about it. That's about 80-90% of it right there.
Okay. Okay. No, then I probably should have read it. Again, I was just trying to just kind of get started into the meat of it. But no, those are kind of the same questions I have too, right? It's like, I guess no, I guess a good example is like the color white, right? Where Western ideology is very positive coded, it's spirituality, it's purity, it's life. But on the East, white is usually a symbol of death. And like there's a lot of similarities, purity, spirituality. Those two things are very, similar. But like the idea that like, one side is life and one side is death. Um, like how does that come together, right? How can you uh, rectify that? Is that the right word? I guess. So so like yeah, I get that. That makes sense in with that with what he's trying to ask. So I guess the hope is that this book can answer a lot of the questions that we might have about where some of the contradictions that we've got, that where they might exist, like green and envy. That's always a big one,
Hmm.
right? That's like honestly like still like my probably one of my like biggest, like usually I can find a justification somewhere. Green and envy is like probably the farthest stretch that I have to kind of make work. Um, just the only way I can think of it is that like when you're trying to find a sense of peace and calm, you're kind of searching outwards to an idea of how to reach that sense of peace and calm. So that would be like the yellow reaching into the blue, the energy going into the blue. So what green and envy would be like you see someone else having that peace and calm, and you desire what they have, right? You desire their sense of serenity, and that's why it gets twisted. So it's like a negative variant of the green, uh, but like that's like five different steps, right? To It's not like it's implausible, but and like every emotion can become every emotion. But like I guess the reason why is like why isn't envy like red? Why doesn't it have a
Yep.
sense of control with it, or purple? Like the sense of spirituality with it, or even gold. You know, like envy and gold would really work together. No, it's green, and it was first termed by Shakespeare actually, if I remember right. Uh, and so yeah, so just a one of those contradictions, right? All right. Uh, Z, do you have anything you'd like to add or any thoughts?
Uh, I guess I was just thinking about white, what you were saying about white earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's like the Western, the way white is used in the West. It's kind of like, don't you guys have that whole blank slate type of I somehow feel like it's an American thing, but I don't know if I should say it's a philosophy or like you know what the Statue of Liberty represents. I think it had something to do with tabula rasa or something. I read it somewhere. But this is just like I'm pulling out from my impressions. I don't have a source. I just somehow heard it somewhere. Yeah. So somebody verify my. I have no citation. Yeah.
Well, I think what you're saying is that the American association with white and like the philosophy of the tabula rasa and freedom and like everything is just
Yeah.
clear. It's like the world is your playground idea. They all just kind of merge together, and white kind of embodies a lot of like the Western liberty, freedom, blank slate kind of vibes. It could just kind of picks up a lot of that in the way we have associate with it.
Yeah. And then I guess in the East, the death, like white equals death things, kind of like a clean slate. So I was just asking the perplexity. What's the difference between blank slate and clean slate? Yeah.
No, that's a decent question. They are really similar. Um, I guess the a blank slate is something that you start where you can start something on and draw whatever. A clean slate is something that you clean and wipe away. So one is the beginning and one is the end. So uh but like it's interesting though that like they're saying the same thing but looking at it from like opposite directions,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting to think about. No, again, it goes to the life and death aspect, right? Uh, yeah. So, but then that just makes me think like if again that's hitting a similarity, right? If that's hitting a
Hmm.
similarity just from a different vantage point, then that probably means that there's something deeper underneath it that's creating that similarity, right? That's more
Hmm.
universal. And like, since we're here, it's that deeper aspect that I try to look for when it comes to the when it came to like trying to find the descriptions, right? Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, uh, in which case, I settled on positivity only because it
Mm.
has only because that was the most easily understood by everyone, I guess. Um, I didn't have to like write a 10 paragraph page to describe
Yeah.
how I got there. Um, so, because what's a language if people can't understand it, right?
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's also a constraint. It's also a chain, right? It's both. It's at some point it's better than grunts and hoots and howls, but then it's not quite the lived human experience either, right? So it's like it's in that twilight zone. Language is in that twilight zone. It's
Yeah,
above sign
Mm.
language and grunt, but it's below what we actually experience. And so,
Hmm.
but it's what we got.
it
Yeah.
it's the best that we got. So
Best that we got.
hmm, yeah, but that was a good point. Thank you, Z. Thank you. That was a good. That was interesting. Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
And then I was kind of thinking about green, about like what if green is kind of like, I don't know, being like a resource hoarder or something.
That's that's possible. So green's closest descriptor or its core descriptor is nature, right?
Yeah.
So when you think of green, you're it's every connotation is going to have some connection to like outside and forests and such as that, right? Um, but the a part of that could be resources, right? So like,
Mm.
you know, when you look at plants and stuff, plants is food. You know, you think of vegetables, you think green. It's part of the reason like restaurants, if if you're eating at like a if they use green in their logos of some sort,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
trying to present themselves as healthier, right? So
Hmm.
if we're
Yeah.
looking about
Just like the Monster Energy drink, right?
yeah, right? Like Monster does that too, sort of. The green has another descriptor in it, but I don't really bring it up that often because it's so so green again. Green is just so weird because green's core descriptor is nature. It's if you like green, you're going to heavily sway towards the peace and calm of it. But it does have another offshoot, and I'm going to mention this in my next video. Actually, it's disgust. Green is also
Mm.
gross. Uh, and so the thing is, though, is that I don't really ever talk about the disgust aspect of it because when you like something, you like the good qualities of it. Does that make sense? If you're favoriting
Yeah.
green, you're favoriting the fact that nature calms you or that sense of serenity. You don't really
Mm.
if you do find disgusting things calming, like it's possible, but it's very rare, and that means that you've had some kind of trauma or you're sick in the head, uh,
Yeah.
right? Metaphorically and probably literally. So, uh,
Mm.
Maybe, and this is again, hopefully some of this will be cleared up as we move along through the resources than we
yeah.
think, and maybe people comment in videos and say, "No, you're wrong about this. Actually, there's a study," right? But like just as an initial thought I had is so just going back to like kind of like evolutionary psychology. It's like, well, when we were developing, like the thing we would have encountered most that had those wavelengths was kind of the
Mhm.
forest, right? And as we further evolved into mammals and then primates, so like that would have been largely our shelter, just like it is for primates.
Yeah.
Now that's where they take, that's their home, that's their shelter. When they're
Mhm.
threatened, that's where they go back. They hide in the canopy of the trees from the predators on the ground and in the
Yep.
air, and that's where they feel safe. Is beneath the home, right?
Mhm.
As of nature. I think that's part of the reason why so many people have plants in their house still and wood floorings and natural stuff because it feels like that ancient like jungle kind of feel. But there's that other side of it that may not be as the disgust aspect maybe even though it's like we took refuge in a lot of that stuff. It's like a lot of that stuff is still poisonous to us. Like a lot of the green stuff still makes us sick. A lot of the green
Yeah.
stuff has mold on food, right? I love the green stuff.
Mm.
And so it's like there's home, right? And then there's disease, right? There's home and
Yeah.
disease, but it's like the home is stronger because we're like there's more of it, and then the disease, but it kind of lurks in the shadows. Like not all green is safe, right? Like oh, not all green is home. Like not all green is home.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Like or like even like when you're sick, they call it sickly green, right? Just another example. And so,
Mm.
or like when you throw up, like very often, green is kind of associated with vomit as well. So yeah, I think I'm kind of on board with that. Uh, so when trying to like describe green, it's actually more complex than I mentioned. But that's because when it comes to personality, I usually only have to talk about the good half and not the bad half. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but if somebody dislikes green, there you go, something to pay attention to, right? Because it may not just like they may not like the green. It might not just because they're trying not to be calm. They might not like green because of all the negative stuff that green has associated with it. So like poisons, money. Green is often associated with money pretty frequently too. But I'm pretty sure that the money is also associated with envy. So, but again, I think both of those slant towards that kind of disgust area that I don't really need to mention often. So, look at that. Just a layer I just never had to bring up before.
Yeah. I think you touched on it very briefly during your PDF.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was it this? Was it discussed?
Yeah.
I don't know. It might not have been. Yeah, I know you touched on the money part though.
I touched on the money
The
part.
envy, the envy part.
Yeah. Yeah. Just basically just because green and envy is like the one thing that like because again I have a justification for everything, but that's like the amount of steps I have to get from green to envy. It kind of
Mm.
loses like usually I have like one or two steps which people can be like okay that makes sense, but if I have to do like
Yeah,
five
yeah.
or six steps to get there,
Uh-huh.
it kind of loses meaning. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. And if it loses meaning, and it's kind of a situation that I have with like MBTI and a lot of other personality systems. If one area loses meaning in that section, it kind of questions the credibility of the rest of the theory. That makes sense. So it makes it less ironclad.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So,
That's why they have paradigm shifts, right? It's
mm,
because that's always what happened to no matter what model you get. It's like that's why like you see like in these personality models, like people freak out and debate each other like mad over like different like interpretations of the data,
mm-hmm,
like different amounts of steps you take. They use rules like Occam's razor and
mm-hmm,
logical and all this, right? And it's like, but if you see it from this perspective, you see it from and then after like 317 years of one system, whoosh,
yeah,
right? They got a whole. It's like all the data was still there, but now a different lens is more useful for more people to use than the other lens, right? Through which to interpret it. And it's like,
yeah, yeah,
what can you do, right?
yeah. What do you do? And that's also why like if I'm very cautious if anyone tries to bring in like new information into the theory because I have to be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, is this like in the general chat? I'm your manual. He's trying to like he's bringing in a theory and a hypothesis, basing it on the rods and cones of the eyes, adding in a biological component, which is fantastic. I'm not against that. But like I have to filter it through, okay, what about the social component? What about the individual experience component? What about all the different, definitions and emotional layers that we have to factor into it, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like I can't just take it at face value or like the Barnum effect. How much is the Barnum effect affecting it? So like I can't just take it at a face value. I have to like really like parse it out and be like, okay, is are we building an entirely new system, or is he basing it off of my system? Like, it adds a lot of
Yep.
Mm,
questions,
You,
right?
you're having to do the TI aspect of it. You're having to see how like internally like logically consistent like this premises with what you've already established and like where and if and how it integrates, like how it stacks, like how to stack the program.
Yeah,
The logic.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it just takes me a little longer to figure out all the steps. so so yeah, I'm about to respond to him soon, actually. So
They do get into the biological aspect in here a little bit too, so that'll be
yeah,
fun.
that'll be interesting. Yeah,
mm,
but I think it's the I guess the big question is it goes back to the meme, the black, the is it black and blue or white and gold, right?
Yeah.
Right.
oh yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
is it, and when it comes to his question, is it nature, it's nature versus nurture, right? How much
Mm-hmm.
of the biological component can I be able to differentiate between, how he
Meaningfully.
feel, between what he feels and the rest of society feels, right? So if it's a system that works for him, like, that's fine, but can it be a system that works for everyone? I can't really
Mm-hmm.
say. So um and it's the blue and black dress and the white and gold dress. Apparently, the reason why that is actually how we how we look at light. The context is dependent upon the light that we receive. So if
Mm,
it's shaded darker, it looks more black and blue. If it's shaded lighter, it looks more white and gold. That's the prevailing theory that we have right now. I say we, but that I saw. So,
mm,
There
mm.
but
was some don't quote me on this, I'll have to go and check it again. But I think there was a component of there was if like if somebody worked at night, they did like night shifts and they were exposed to like artificial lighting for a certain period of time in the day, there was a higher probability they would see it as one color.
mm-hmm.
And then if somebody else had a more traditional time frame that they used, that they were their eyes and their body was accustomed to a certain another setting of light, they were more there was more probable that they would see another color, another shade of it.
Yeah.
And so it was it was a fascinating look behind the curtain of like human perception and the way like different contexts that's getting like, set up by our
Yeah.
bio. It was it was very interesting. Yeah, that was
Mm-hmm.
that was interesting. That was interesting.
All right. Well, uh, we can move on to chapter one. Z, I know you have to leave soon, so I don't want to.
Yeah, I think I'll leave here. Then you guys can
Yeah,
get serious.
I don't want you to. I don't want to hold you. So
No, I would like to be here, but duty calls.
no, I
So
Maybe.
understand.
have fun, you guys. Bye
Hey, thank you
bye.
for joining
Until
for as
next
long as you
time.
did.
Bye.
Drive safe. All right.
All
Into
right.
chapter one then.
Into chapter one. Let's go.
Ready.
All right. So I did read this, and then I tried to kind of skim over it before we started. Uh, was there anything that kind of stood out to you that you found
I
interesting?
there was what I did was, and we'll get better as we go along
Mm-hmm.
throughout the book and pulling things out and commenting on it. But what I did was is I went through each of the chapter headings
Mm.
and I pulled out what intrigued me, what sparkled to me from each chapter heading. But because I did that, I understand that the price I pay for having done it in that way will be a little bit of the context,
Okay.
right? Because this interests me, the rest of this stuff doesn't, and I'll forget some of the context surrounding it. But that is the approach I've taken to get us off the ground with, at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what about you? What was the methodology you deployed?
I think so. I didn't necessarily take notes. I think again this will just kind of, the first chapter usually tends to always be like a setup for the rest of the book. But I guess I was just kind of looking more for things that that caused me to like give like a quizzical notion, I guess. The best way is things that cause me to question or make me think about what was happening and what was going on. Uh, so, like for example, when he mentions the aspect about how there wasn't a lot of language for blue back in the day, so because blue was really rare. So I guess it made me wonder, why could that possibly be, right? So like I guess one, blue was like, what does that mean for the sky? Does that mean that humans just didn't consider the sky or the ocean blue, or was it just such a natural force that they just didn't consider to name it? Or maybe maybe the language was like they just called like you know blue the same as ocean or something. uh, that was kind of like, if the sky wasn't blue, what color would it have been? Right? Would it have been red? Would it have been green? Would it have been yellow? Would the clouds have been white? Right? So it's that kind of a it was kind of like an evolutionary kind of question, uh, that kind of sparked that. And then let's see. I think another interesting interesting point was Newton was trying to find a harmony of colors, I guess. And he mentions how he tried to mix gold with indigo as kind of a harmonious
With
combination.
indigo and then yeah, with blue.
Yeah, yeah. And which I find is interesting because gold today, like, would gold have been the same back then as it would have been now? That's one of the questions, right? But even then, like they know recognize that gold was something special and unique. And I also find it interesting that they kind of connected that gold and orange are kind of similar, which in a sense is kind of true because while the end conclusions are different, they do have similar emotional pathways of how people respond to it. It's just, again, it's just that the end conclusion ends up being very different between gold and orange.
It's like it's like that. It's like the amber, that color amber. I love it. I wish I prepared a picture for this.
Uh,
It's like that. It's like that amber color. That's like that deep honey, like orange, and it's like fiery. Like it's like a fiery orange, and it's like
mm-hmm.
gold. But not, it's almost like the cultural component that was layered over the gold, like the because when you first started doing readings, you still had to like peel off the cultural component
Yeah.
and find out like which part was biological, which part right, which part was like a more um which part was more cultural, and it's like the biological component between gold, something shiny and yellowish, and the
Yeah.
sun itself, something orange and sunny-ish, right, was more or less the same. And so, like emotionally, maybe what Newton is catching on to is like maybe he's feeling a resonance, like a frequency, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
but like a kindred spirit between like radiance, divinity, like sun, like solar, like energy, like that from the orange and the gold that he's not quite getting as strongly from the yellow.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I agree with that. Because like it's like he was able to, like, and it goes back to when we did that pseudo homework assignment with the Kingdom Hearts songs. Just because one of the songs, I think it was the 358 over 2 days. I mentioned that it had an orange vibe to it, and you guys mentioned that it had a golden vibe to it, right? And I was like, the parts that were gold and orange, I was like, to me that made sense because just because of how they would have been translated. They're really close. So, hmm. I think the if I'm getting into the nitty gritty, the difference between orange and gold is that while gold is like a want to have that emotion, orange is like you actually feeling that emotion. So it's orange is more expressive and more actually like they carry their emotion on their shoulder. Gold is like trying to seek it and trying to obtain it, uh, and it's more reverent in that way. Uh, so gold is less expressive, uh, which is interesting because yellow is what's powering both of them. So it's kind of why they're one of the main reasons why they're so similar.
Oh, it's more like they share a common ancestor, like an evolution, right? It's like some creatures will share a common ancestor, but the true descendants will look more like to each other than they do to the ancestor, right?
Yeah.
So it's like descent. Gold and silver. We'll have
Yes.
to come back to those later. Again,
Again.
right?
Yeah.
Again, because I
Yeah.
remember we had a discussion on them and about how it seemed like silver was more with Jen's reading. For context for anybody who might be watching this, an INTJ lady we did a reading for about a year ago. Um, and for her reading, um, we were talking about it a little bit, and it was like the silver seems to be seeking. Okay, the silver seems to be seeking something the gold already has. So if the yellow also, if the orange is also experiencing something that the gold seems to be reaching for, or seems to be dampened, or seems to what's that thing called? It seems to something that the gold does not contact directly. Then it's then I was like where does the Venn diagram chain? It's like does the orange have something to do with silver that we haven't seen before? Is this a different aspect of the evolutionary tree that's not even has no genetics in them? As far as we
Yeah.
humans are concerned, no genetic similarity to silver. So we'll get into that later though. So
Yeah. Like
yeah.
we're really finding trying to find that nuance between them. So, oh, and it can get really specific.
It'll get better as we get more resources and harass more people and get more
Right.
colors and do more.
Right. Eventually, just slowly but surely, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Side tangent. The Barnum effect video I did, it has 500 views. Yay.
Oh, nice, 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 nice,
So,
nice, nice. That's very good.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good video,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it's an underappreciated psychological effect.
Yeah. I uh I think people aren't aware just how prevalent it is, right? Just because, just the fact of agreeing or believing in something instantly produces the Barnum effect in some level, right? So,
Yeah, it's like a prerequisite to being human, like to being a living organism in some sense, is to find something like a pattern that seems to like a tool, like a lens.
hmm
It's just the effect of adopting any kind of like it's like even at like level 8, you can switch between lenses, but the moment you switch to use any specific lens, it's like the confirmation bias of using lens automatically like sets in. It's like it comes pre-downloaded, and you have to actively switch out to watch it and look at it and switch out and
yeah,
switch out. That's
right.
exhausting. It's easier just to adopt it, just to borrow it and just run the program, with all the bugs in it and just keep going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So again, something I try really hard to not fall into if I can avoid it. So sometimes I just have to, Sometimes you
Yeah.
just have to just kind of believe a little bit. So, uh, let's see. Uh,
I can chain us to kind of a chronology. Um, and then we can just spark tangent off of kind of what the note sequence I have.
okay, that sounds good.
Okay. So Okay, so very first note that I put down, the thing that kind of come out to me is the author John Gage. He notes that since Newton came along, that the science and art of color have been treated separately, right? They were kind of parsed out into two separate domains. You had the artists kind of on one side doing what they were doing with color, like
Mm-hmm.
actually experiencing it, actually using it, right? And then you had the scientists who kind of treated it as a separate, like they were worried about like the biological effects, like what it does. They were messing with like some of the lighting and different chemicals, right, to get different reactions
Yeah.
and different colors. Um, the I think the reason this stuck out to me is because I thought about this in terms of levels of awareness and kind of societies and how they move. It's
Mm.
like and kind of how it's like how the universe comes from like so to speak from like a single source, and then as life evolves and gets more complex, it's like things begin to diverge. You get trees, and you get like, things are no longer just atoms or just quantum fluctuations. It's like the differences in those quantum like fluctuations and those small differences in frequencies, keep chain reactions and chain that become further and further removed from their source. So
Yeah.
eventually you get trees and rocks and humans and tigers and whatever. And it's like, and like here, it's like in the history of the human race, it's like first we just have us experiencing color as animals, and then you have like 30,000, 40,000 years ago, give or take, you have us using color and cave art, right? And
Yeah.
there we've showed a preference for orange, red, and black. I'm sorry, not yellow. We actually didn't use yellow because the stone powder that came out naturally as yellow, we burned and turned to red and then used it as red. So it would be easier for us to use it as yellow, but we
Mm-hmm.
preferred to use it as red. And I think that foreshadows what we learn later on about red, black, and white being the first colors that we put a term to, a label to, a name to.
Yeah.
Um, and so um, and so this here, like Isaac Newton, the reason I noted this I made this note is because he kind of to me served as the the chapter point where for the human race the how we experience and use color is now distinct from our abstractions, our philosophical and mathematical logical abstractions about color. It's like how we use it, what we do with it, how we experience it, our preferences for it, and then the autistic weirdos in the laboratory slicing it up, analyzing it, dissecting it, and it's like now we have the bifurcation of the Tao that needs to at some point be reconciled again at the far end, but we haven't gotten there yet. So it's
Yeah.
like birth time of separation, science, art, experience, abstraction. Any any thoughts or feelings or intuitions you have on that?
Mm. Mm. Again, like it it makes overall sense. It also makes sense like you know, like if levels just how the ability to look at colors in different ways would definitely be an awareness thing, right? Uh but I think the it just kind of comes back to the difficulty of being able to quantify it, right? Uh just if everyone is seeing everything slightly differently, then I guess how can you have a measure of where the true like where is the true number two between all of it, right? Um, and I guess in order to do that, you have to have like a societal agreement on what the true level two would be, right? And so, and I think that's it kind of comes back to like you have the experience of it and the the logic of it. The trick is always going to be because you need to be able to do both. The trick will always be trying to do both at the same time, but people's brains don't like to do that very well because just the way people's brains are hardwired. You know, you're either very logical or you're very emotional. So being able to quantify emotions or even a reverse, like emotionally quantify, right? Which sounds very counterintuitive. Like that's like I feel like that's kind of something that we're trying to do. And in a way, it's kind of a new field of study that's very counterintuitive to how we define science as it is now, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Because what do they always complain about? Anecdotal evidence. Right? They're like, that's anecdotal evidence. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, hold on, wait. It's like, isn't that all science is? Is just a collation, a concatenation of a broad array of different anecdotes, the anecdotes of the researcher, the anecdotes of the researcher's subjects, the anecdote of the researcher's cousins, whoever, who we got
yeah.
the source from, the anecdote of the people who read Wikipedia, the anecdote of the person who conducted the experiment, the
Mm-hmm.
anecdote of the person who lied about the experiment, right? It's like that's all anecdotal research. It's just, and so it's like the first outlier. It's like if you, it's like the first. It's like so you have the system going. I've done a reading I haven't posted yet from an INTJ girl a while ago who was like, no, I associate to the different colors very differently than the way you described them.
Yeah.
And so that's an antidote, right? That's an outlier. That's right here that needs to be eventually encompassed in whatever the true number two is going to be. It's like your
Yeah.
true number two to be a new number two needs to account. And it's like, and the more of those anecdotes you get, eventually all those anecdotes someday become the new science. And then the person 27 years later is going to come along and they're going to preach that as the gospel truth. All these things that you said were just anecdotes. They're going to be like, this is the science. This is the science. And then somebody else will find something outside of that. And he's going to be the one. He's the one who goes, that's just an anecdote. We don't accept anecdotal evidence. It's like, well, that's all science is anecdotal evidence.
Yeah. 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 Oh. Which creates kind of a problem, right? Like, how can you find any consistency in psychology if the when the baseline is just human behavior,
Yeah.
right? so
Yes. Yes.
so,
That's why I like the way Kyle says it when he calls Kim Dad, right? When he calls personality science an art. He's like, it's really an art. It's
yeah,
really an art. And
yeah,
like, yeah, it is.
yeah. And then and it's kind of weird because when you describe it as an art, it's like you'll know it when you see it, and you see it when you know it, right? So you can't quantify behaviors. You just kind of like, yeah, you'll get it eventually. You know, it'll come.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, that was a good point. That was a good point. Did you have something else on your note list?
Yes. Next note I have is actually something you've already touched on. What resonated with you was Mr. Gladstone in 1850.
Mm-hmm.
He thought that the absence of the word for the color blue meant that they had color blindness to the color.
Yeah.
Right? In this instance, referring to ancient Greeks. Um, here's my unsolicited thoughts on the color blue, and it kind of goes to the second option you gave when you were positing the two options. And for now, I don't know what I'll think about it in the future, but for now, I think of it like it's like, so we have a cat in our family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this time, sometimes we have more than one cat and they go away. We live out in the country, so sometimes the coyotes get them. Sometimes they go to our neighbor's house. Sometimes we don't know where they go. And right now, we have only one cat. And the cat doesn't really have a name. We just say the cat. Where's the cat? Come here, cat. Here, kitty, kitty. Right. But every time we have more than one cat, every cat gets a name. So it's like when there's only one sky, there's only one thing that's blue in your entire world, right? And
Yeah.
the same thing's going to work with green, right? Because as far as we primates were concerned, only one thing was green in the entire world. Two things maybe. It's like some bad plants and lots of good plants,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, so what we wouldn't have. So if we saw anything in the world that looked like a blue butterfly or a blue flower, we would be like the sky flower, sky, like the one thing we know. It's like we wouldn't use a color for it. We just reference the one thing we know. So like me, I'm walking around outside and we have the gray cat and I see
Mm-hmm.
this and I've never seen anything gray before and I've never seen um let's say I've never seen a chipmunk before. And I said chipmunk, and I'm like, hey, I saw like this cat-like creature, and but it had a bushier tail, and it had these cheeks. Like imagine our cat had rounder ears, and it had these cheeks, right? It was like a cheek cat, right? It was
Cheeky
like a
cat.
it's like it was the same color it was the same color as our cat, and so it would, so but and I would use the relationship right
Yeah.
between what we know to chain it to something to reel it in, right? To reel it in. And so my intuition my intuition for now, I should say rather, is your second proposal, which is I think what they did was is because they had nothing else to reference,
Yeah.
they only had the sky, and it wasn't until they found like lapis lazulis and sapphires and like blue dye, like thousands of years
Yeah.
later, where it suddenly became relevant for them to actually put a label on that color. Whereas with red, right, with the because he also says here, the least developed languages just prioritize light and darkness over shades of color, right? Light,
Yeah.
darkness, and then red, right? Those first show up. It's like okay, so it's like the red, like it send off alarm, like fruit, like blood. You have the moon, and then you have the sun, right? So
Yeah.
you have a bifurcation, you have a division. Yeah, it's not the sky. The only one thing that it's color. It's like we have that. We have this in the daytime, and there's lots of white, white,
Yeah.
and then we have nor, right, like night, like dark, night and I guess like Niger, right, in the color, right,
Yeah.
and so it's like we got now we have a
Like
cleavage, we have
the
a separation,
separation, right?
yeah, and so with blue, no separation for thousands of years, and so no need to label it, nothing to pull it out from.
That I guess that makes sense. When it comes to when it comes to the sky, it was either like, oh, it's light out, or it's dark out, right? There's no need to reference the color blue of the sky. So
Which reminds me of something I think Eric Norman said in the book The Origins and History of Consciousness.
mm-hmm.
It was either him or Carl Jung who says that according to their research at the time, the there actually was not originally, or it seems most likely to them that there was actually before there were terms for night and dark,
Yeah.
there was just the sky, right? And then we actually began to develop intuitions and associations for the night before we did for the day. So terms for the night sky came. So first it was sky,
Just
one monolithic unit,
like
and then
like a god in a way, like a
yeah,
being,
yeah, exactly,
right?
yeah, exactly. And then we pulled night out, and then with that we get by implication we get the day, right? And then it moves on from there.
Okay, okay. Hmm. No, no. Then that's kind of tracking with like I guess the absence of blue, because then that if the blue was just part of the god being of the sky, there was no need to name it. I guess so because it was already just part of that entity that existed up there. I guess. Hmm. Theory. We'll never know.
There, yeah.
I'm okay holding multiple theories, and some people are like it has to be this way because it's the most logical. I'm like, it could be multiple things. It's fine.
Yeah.
We live today. We don't live then.
Kind of makes you wonder though, like if you were able to go back in time, like how many things we're so certain of now would just be so wrong. You'd be like, oh, this is how they did it, or this is why they did it, or this is
Yeah.
the explanation. Like it kind of boggles the mind sometimes for me to think about this. Like, how many things do we know are right now that are just so wrong? We'll
Yeah.
never, I will never, we'll never ever know because we just can't.
I think for me the biggest one is probably language. How much could language potentially change because we think like one or two characters are different? Uh, just because the way that language was written back then, right? And it's been kind of on my thought, just like when you clump a word into a symbol rather than a word, it has multiple meanings, right? But you try to derive what the meaning is depending on the context of the other meanings and the other symbols around it. So it's not like language today where if I say a, it's ah or a, right? Back then, you have like you have like a swirl, and that could mean like water a a typhoon or a storm, right? Three very different things under the same context. So, uh,
That goes back to what we were saying about everything coming from right. It's more simplified. It's more monolithic. It's more what are you? What's the word? More unified, and then it gets carved up,
mm-hmm,
and then eventually, I guess the point of like higher levels of consciousness, so to speak, is we begin to be able to see how it all comes back together again, like in our minds, like consciously.
yeah,
It's like, but first we have to take it apart, and it's like, but it's like, we don't take things apart until there's a problem with it. Like it's like necessity is the mother of invention,
mm-hmm,
and so it's like we go through the world, and then something seems off, and it sparks our curiosity, or we have a struggle. We need to make more money, or we need to, or we need to make money, or we need to survive, right? Or we want to make a bigger business or whatever. And it's like, okay, I have a problem. I desire something. I'm trying to get to a destination, and there's a
mm-hmm,
river in my way. How do I get across the river? It's like, well, I look at the environment around me, and it's like, well, the grass is that particularly helpful. Well, it's like a tree, right? Like the tree, I can cut down the tree, I can lay it down. It's like then the distinction between a grass and a tree suddenly becomes relevant to me at the point where I have a problem that requires the solution of one over the other, right?
yeah,
And it's like it's like going back to what we're talking about with language with the color blue and them not having a term for it. It's like they didn't have anything relevant, like any puzzles that they needed to solve that required them to give a designation to solve the
mm-hmm,
sky god or whatever.
yeah,
But with what you were saying with language, it's like as our cultures become more sophisticated, as we wanted to teach people more things how to read, as we had more and more problems, and more and more individuated, and we needed greater flexibility in being able to address and solve those problems. It's like, well, let's give more granularity to our thought processes, which is reflected by the granularity in our language. They're kind of a
yeah,
fractal like thing.
yeah,
Um, and I know we had this discussion once before in a previous voice chat, which was we were trying you were trying to think of ways language in the future could be meaningfully simplified again in a not simplified, that's the wrong word for it, more contextual again,
yeah.
more but even that's the wrong word. It's like more
Well,
consciously contextual.
consciously contextual would probably be the closest way. I guess I guess what I realize is that like if I look at a symbol, right, and I have meanings and I'm able to attach a meaning to the symbol, I'm able to use less brain power connecting to that symbol than suppose because it's one symbol for a meaning, right? That has multiple meanings. But in the case of words, right, I'm technically creating like for a seven-letter word would have seven different symbols, each with their own attached meaning, and therefore I'm still technically doing the same thing of attaching a meaning to the letter symbol, but I'm using up a lot of brain power to try to remember and contextualize all of that together. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, but again, there's pros and cons, right? Because like as you were mentioning, uh, if I try to define everything down into a symbol that has multiple meanings, the context becomes less clear depending on the individual who's reading it, right? It's like text messaging, right? You know, am I being offensive or am I being kind depending on how I write it? You know, if I forget the punctuation mark or if I add the punctuation mark, you know, am I being offensive or am I being angry? You know, uh, that kind of thing can kind of you kind of lose that when you contextualize everything under just a singular symbol. It's nice being able to have specificity. So, because just like being able to say like I love food, I want food, I desire food, I like food. No, that's saying I want food, but in like five different ways. That's kind of a nice thing, right? So,
It is, but like you were saying, it sometimes gets our tongues tied a little. It's like it leads to
yeah.
those moments and where in one language somebody could use a term that encapsulates like it's like because even in language, even in spoken language, we have the equivalents of words that are more block like, right? Like they like the symbol is more monolithic, and then you kind of pull out from the context exactly like love. That's a good one, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I love pizza. Like I love my wife. I love my car. You know, it's like I love my kids, right? It's
Yeah.
like well, it's like I love money. I love right. It's like that one word, but it's like a block word, and it's like in some cases it's like agape, in some cases it's like eros, in some cases it's like whatever. And we just know from experience, but sometimes we don't really know, and we get the semantics crossed over, and then we're
Yeah.
in a debate with somebody we love, and it's just like,
Right.
But the 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 advantage like you were saying is we get that granularity, we get that specificity, like we get to put like a
Mm-hmm.
razor's edge on our term and like we're really wordsmith. But then the downside is sometimes like you and I will be staring at each other like, what's the word? What's the word? And we both know what we mean. Like we both like I know what you mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, but it's like this autistic urge to just have to say it, right? It's just like like it's like that necessary?
Like why can't we just put everything in emojis and call it good?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or memes where it says mood. There's that meme that says where there's that meme where a guy's talking to his therapist and he says, I'm not really good at talking about my emotions. Why don't you just show me a scroll of memes and I'll point at one that I'll normally say mood, right? And then you'll get it.
Mood, yes, I get it. I get it. Oh, oh, interesting stuff. But
All right. For
yes,
this recording, we have about an hour.
okay, yeah,
I still have tons of notes
yeah.
left.
Let's keep going down your note base.
Okay. 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 Least developed language. Prioritize light and darkness over shades of color. We
Uh-huh.
covered that. The other, okay, in his earlier book on color and culture, he tries to use artifacts as evidence for attitudes towards colors at the time of his writing. Very little research on non-European color attitudes, ostensibly. Okay, so I guess the reason that was important to me is because what he's doing, um, as he's exploring the history of colors, is he is trying. It seems to me that he is trying to look. He's asking himself a very simple question. He's like, how did our ancestors? How did they use colors? How did they use blue? How did they
Yeah,
use purple? How did they use gold? The truest understanding we can get of what those colors meant to them, aside from what they said about them, is how they actually used them, what they did with them.
yeah,
Um, he notices a little bit of a paradox. He says, I have written here. He says, and I wrong. Okay, so okay, the paradox is on very okay. So the linguistic aspect of color is something that let me see. Artifacts. He uses artifacts. Very little research on non-European. Okay, at the time of writing this book, John Gage feels like not a lot of people did a whole lot of research into the historical aspect of how people used colors, like in China, like in Persia,
Mm-hmm.
in Africa. They spent most of their time looking at how the Europeans related to color. But
Yeah.
and I suppose you have to start somewhere, right? So you get yourself a base, and you can use that as a reference point, as a Rosetta Stone to interpret the lens through which to try to meaningfully interpret everything else.
Yeah.
Um,
Now that's understandable.
okay, he says, I have written here. It says, ironically, um, cultures have dominated. Okay, so but these same cultures, non-European cultures, seem to have dominated in what he calls the ethno-linguistic studies of color terms. So there seems to be a fragmented interest, as the author describes it, and obviously research has prioritized the technological aspects which can be commercialized. Okay, this is something you've pointed out in your PDF, right? The prevalence of colors being used to get effects in marketing without truly understanding the deeper reasons why behind it.
Yeah.
It's like they'll use colors to incite like hunger, like red and orange and yellow, and lots of fast food restaurants, lots of red, like orange and yellow, lots of red and orange and yellow that
Yes.
stimulates,
That,
Um,
that that survival instinct in a way.
and so he notes that the commercial people have been hot on the ball in terms of how to use color these days,
Mm-hmm.
and ethno linguistic studies, which means people scouring how different ethnicities use different languages, different terms for colors. That's all I have in the subheading in the very first subheading. Um, any thoughts or intuitions or questions or
The history of art as a unifying subject.
that is the next subheading. I haven't
Oh,
even gotten there yet.
I think the I guess I think the one of the points you mentioned was about the fact how businesses don't tend to use or tend to kind of use the same colors without recognizing it. Uh, I think that was also kind of something I had to include as well. But I mentioned it in my PowerPoint or the PDF was like there's still a traceable line back to the core descriptor, right? It's just that, and it's a different lens, right? When we're looking at ourselves, we're interpreting it one way, but then the moment you look at it externally, it becomes something different, but through a different lens. It's like looking in a mirror in a way, or looking through a magnifying glass. Like yeah, the color is the same with the magnifying glass, but it's going to look different depending on how you hold it. Uh, so that was also something I kind of had to try to isolate through as well. Uh, I guess that's one of the things that comes to mind. Also, I guess it's just interesting the evolution of color as well. Maybe I'm going ahead of myself, but just the idea of like how I guess it's a question. It's a question is how universal is the theory that I made, right? Did individuals associate the colors the same way as I'm describing them? Not just like as not just globally now, but like globally in the past, right? Like was red the same? Did people interpret red as a sense of control, i.e., survival, back then? Or even gold? Was gold treated the same way, or silver, or and like even though blue wasn't mentioned, like was blue thought of in the same way as it is now. Uh, and if it was thought of in the same way as it was now, how it had that reverence in the past, right? How do I have to translate that reverence into how the somberness would affect it, right? So there's just so many questions that I can't fully know because I can't because I'm not there, right? So
And I know he's gonna try to answer some of those, like blue in specific. He tries to go back, but
mm-hmm.
I don't know if we can. Like going back to language, like
Right, right,
I think like after 600 or 700 years back, we're gonna really start struggling.
yeah,
Um, because the technology, because of how sophisticated art was, because of it's like in many cases artists were going to settle on the like okay, so let's imagine that there was an artist 1200 years ago who really they didn't have oil paintings, they couldn't afford anything blue, they didn't have access to anything blue, but they did really like blue, and as the sun was setting right over like the midnights the sky, that twilight hour right there, that kind of like a that zone where the sky is like a deep like navy blues, that was
yeah,
their favorite color in the world, but there's no way for them to represent that color, and they're an artist, right? And this is like 1200 years ago, and so they're trying to paint something and they really want to use that color. That color really
yeah,
resonates with them. They just can't, and so they're just like and then so they settle for like a second or third best color, something that they feel is close enough, and it ends up being like an emerald green. Like they take a bunch of plants and they mash it up into this
yes,
green, and they put that on there. And then we look at it now, and we're like, ooh, like they use the green in this context. They're like, this must mean right. And then it's like
right, right,
it was the closest they could get, right, kind of deal. And like we'll never like sometimes we'll never know that, right?
yeah,
It is, and then and then John here, Gage, he mentions that a lot of these colors they faded over time, so we don't even really know the original shade they used,
yeah. And
right?
I remember reading that too. That's kind of what brought that up as well. Uh, so man, but yeah, that's kind of what came to my mind as you were reading that section.
That's
Um,
good.
but let's we're running short on time. Let's move on to the next one.
Oh,
Uh,
the history of art. The history of art as a unifying subject.
yeah,
Here I have written. I'll just kind of read the whole thing, and so we'll move a little faster, and we'll just pull things out as they seem relevant to us. So
yeah,
I've written here. It says the author hopes that using history of art might give us access to all other relevant aspects of our end of color by looking at the way artists actually use colors to express thoughts, feelings, and ideas, giving us empirical access to how some humans in some places relate to those colors. So that's just a reiteration of the point we made above. It's just like he's going to look at how people used them and then
mm-hmm.
infer from that how they felt about it.
yeah,
Okay. Experimental psychology. Um, experimental psychology, kind of trying to understand better how like specific humans relate. Um, I guess to those colors. I'm
mm-hmm.
actually gonna have to Google like the details of experimental psychology. I don't understand that term as well as I should. Let's see. A work of art. Oh, okay, John. I love this. This reminded me of things that you say fairly often. He said, I've written here, paraphrase, that a work of art is so much more than just data. It is a vehicle of ideas, sense, values, sense, and ideas. And so it's like a work of art. It's like a work of art is like a totem, like a totem. It's like a projection. It's
Mm-hmm.
like to some extent, it's a projection of an aspect of the artist's inner world, right? They have a world inside here, and they take that and they put a small fragment of that out onto the art. And so I have a feeling that what he's trying to say here is that through the help of experimental psychology, understanding better like the internal worlds of humans, kind of collectively, and then understanding, and then beginning with the assumption of an artistic piece being a totem for values, ideas, perspectives, temperaments, etc.
Yeah.
It's like hopefully that will give us deeper insight. Like it'll help us triangulate. It give us enough data points to triangulate, enough positioning points to triangulate and to pierce deeper
Mm-hmm.
into what they're trying to get at. Right? Which is something which is something you're already doing, right? With you're like, because when you do your readings, you're like, you look like culturally, and then you do the temperaments and the personality types, and then the gender.
Yeah.
It's like, and and yeah. And so
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, it's like even when I do an art piece reading, right? I'm not necessarily trying to like read the art itself. Like I try to go like a little deeper and think, why would the artist put this on paper in this way? You know, why are they choosing blue instead of red? Why are they choosing, why are they painting black instead of white? Why are they so it's kind of through that cross examination that I'm able to kind of get deeper into the individual soul rather than actually know exactly. Like I kind of skip over the what the piece means, right? So it's how I was able to read your first artwork, right? Because
Yeah.
you didn't give me colors at the get go. You gave me AI generated artwork.
I gave you both. I gave you both. On the very first one, I gave you colors, but not as many. I only gave you my top five.
Yeah.
I only gave you my top five colors,
Mm-hmm.
and then I gave you, yes, lots of probably AI generated artwork. I
Yeah.
really like, so that's something me and Zian have been talking about, is we're getting better at distinguishing like different kinds of artists and like what kind of functions they might probably have.
Mm-hmm.
And we've gotten, I think, fairly proficient at identifying TI art. And what TI artists do is they will meticulously make it very um almost like pathologically, what's the term I'm looking for, symmetrical, like
Yeah.
almost geometrical, like, and it'll look too perfect, too clean, too fussed over. And it can be sometimes like a really skilled TI artist. It'll oftentimes be hard to distinguish their art from an AI generated, because it's just kind of synthetic, kind of crisp, kind of
It's
mechanical.
yeah, a little too clean.
It's like you let a programmer off their computer and onto the art world, and it's like, there we go. It's like, you need to get back here.
You're like, I
But
understand. I
no,
understand.
it takes all kinds to make the world, and I love AI art. I know people hate it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm TI, so of course I'm gonna love it.
No.
So
Like the AI speaks to me.
yeah, precisely.
Oh, nah. Maybe just I'm too chill. To me, it's just I'm kind of like all the same about it, I guess. So it's all art to me. So, uh, but then it just makes me think I'm like the last person that should have been able to figure this out. Just cause
Yeah,
it's like
yeah, yeah.
again,
I
like
think of it. I think of it more like you allowed yourself to be a conduit, right? Like for the collective unconscious, or for like that aspect of the attention of the universe to like just like you were. The universe obviously disagrees, right, with your assessment. It's like, this is the perfect guy to dump this download on. Right?
I'm just like, oh man. I guess for YouTube's sake, no, I don't have a lot of favorite colors, right? I I'm really chill and open guy, I don't really gravitate towards artwork specifically. Uh I tend to bash my own theory. It's just weird. It's just weird, right?
Yeah. Eh, here we are. So,
And here we are. Here we are. We're having a good old time. All right.
cover.
I guess let's keep moving
Go
onward.
ahead. All right. So let's see. Psychology, experimental psychology, art as a totem. Preservation of colors is difficult, if not impossible, to reestablish. Going back to what we were saying before, time passes,
Mm-hmm.
things fade. Sometimes it's hard to know what they used.
Right.
Research into color is, so this is my note, but what I said is research into colors. If you want to get the most holistic understanding of it, it needs to be an interdisciplinary pursuit, and that's what John Gage emphasized in his introduction. He's like history, psychology, philosophy, and artists. We need to get them all on board if we want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Next subheading: artifacts and attitudes. Um, so he said, I have written here the materials of the art being okay. The materials of the art being recorded simply as tools. Okay, I didn't write that down very well, but basically what I'm trying to say here is, or what John Gage is trying to say is like the materials that the artists use, they are repositories. They're like totems of value in their own light. Like also don't just pay attention. And I like this because he's being very holistic about it. He's like, don't
Yeah.
just pay attention to what the artist did. Don't just pay attention to the colors they use. Don't just pay attention to the history. Don't just pay attention to like the experiential psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Like also note what kind of tools they were using, and then try to differentiate out why did they use that tool and not another tool. Why it's like was it necessity? Did this one speak to them? Were they trying to get a specific effect? Was there some kind of status? Like just
Yeah.
also note the tool the artist was using.
Yeah.
Pay attention to that.
No,
Um,
that makes sense. Like if blue is difficult to use, right? You're gonna have if so blue is hard to get. If you're going to use blue, that means blue is going to be extra special, right? There's more. There's going to be added weight and added emphasis into those emotions because of how of how much work you had to use to get to it, right?
it gets a buff
Yeah,
because of the yeah,
yeah, the
and
blue buff.
it's a weird it's a weird feedback effect in a way, because on the one hand you have to desire it badly enough to go out of your way to get it,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like in the act of going out of your way to get it, it's like the Pergamillion effect in a sense. It's like you reinforce the belief that it was valuable. It's like, well, it must be valuable because I went through all this work to get it, right?
Right.
Then you come back and you tell other people this was really valuable and I went out to get it, and then it's kind of infectious. Like some people were like another human, you know, they got a term for this. They went out and did this work. It must be must be valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of spreads, and then it's like a rumor that goes back around, and then like your neighbor's nephew, like whatever, comes up to you and it's like, "Hey, I got this blue thing. It was super valuable." And then it's like a blue is super, and then you go back out to get it again, and they see you going back out to get it, and you come back with another blue thing, and it's just like it's just kind of, and so sometimes that's what you notice with gold when you were trying to read gold and silver. It's like how much of that is that? Like how much of that was it? Okay, sure, it was pretty rock and it never tarnished, but how much of that was somebody coming back and squawking and being like, "Hey, I did all this work and I got this beautiful stone," and other people being like, "Ah." And now our association with it is now tainted by like the cultural aspect and not just the biological. And it's just,
Yeah.
but it's both kind of, but
It is both.
kind
Right.
of out of
Right.
proportion.
So I think you actually went deeper into what I was trying to say than what I was trying to say too, uh, because like in that way blue is kind of like an NFT at that time, right? That's kind of like the way that you described it, where
What's an
an NFT
Yeah.
it happened around COVID. It was the pictures that people would spread around online that had value, and they cost like thousands of dollars for a picture online. Uh,
Oh, okay.
yeah, but anyway, so it's so I guess if I were to do a different way, blue is kind of like because blue is rare, it has value. But as more and more people see the value in it, eventually the value of it drops until it normalizes, right? Until it's no longer special. That's kind of like NFT, or even like funny enough, trading cards do this. You find a super special rare card. The company says, "Oh, a lot of people like this card," so they make more of this card. But as they make more of this card, the value of this card drops. So it's still special, but now it's less special, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So I guess in a way, like you're kind of describing, like I guess the evolution of how how this buff just became static. The buff no longer was a buff, but it just became a status quo. So
Yeah, yeah, and I forgot to include that aspect of it, but you're right because it's like the supply and demand problem all over
mm-hmm.
again. It's
Yeah,
like, and Gage here chronicles the history of how they tried to get blue lapis lazuli, and then they found cheaper, and then oil painting, and then it got cheaper and cheaper, and then they found
yeah,
cheaper dyes, and
mm-hmm.
now they've got a navy blue shirt and blue curtains that cheap as cheap AF, right?
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
you can make blue at home if you really wanted to, right?
yeah.
Just get blue dyes, blue food coloring.
But I imagine there were some colors like those horrible, horrible because I hate them, like muted, like tones. Those like cherry shoes, like colors like that that were I imagine there are like some colors that were only accessed once you've developed that DLC. Like once you've got to the level to where you could easily produce like on accident almost. It's like, oh, we can already make purple now and blue and gold and the
Yeah,
colors we really like. Red. It's like, oh, this ugly little color. It's like, well, like we can make it for cheap now. Might as well throw it on there.
right,
Some
right.
weirdo bad taste to like it, like woo. So there you go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting. They kind of mentioned like how at the end of it, like the with the invention of the oil of mixing the red, yellow, and blue, black, and white. Once they had the oil paintings there, that kind of started codifying it, and because at that point they were able to have something consistent that lasted long, and then they could just get every color that they wanted to, and that was kind of the revolution of art, basically. So
Artistic DLC.
yeah, artistic DLC.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what
All
do
right,
we got? Let's
all right, all
go
right.
ahead. You had it.
On to the next point. What else you got?
All right. Artifacts and attitudes. Harmony. Oh, some materials were invested. Oh, yeah. Finishing. Some materials were invested with intrinsic value, such as ultramarine, lapis lazuli, gold, often being specified and used in the most important aspects of a work. Then we've already commented on some of the psychological effects that might have.
Yeah,
Harmony of colors is the next chapter heading we have. The harmony of colors. Okay. The harmony of colors is still one of the aspects that garners the most interest today and was of great interest to Isaac Newton. And Newton regarded indigo rather than blue as harmonious with golden. Gold is an ambiguous term. Perhaps, yeah, this goes back to what you were saying.
yeah. That
Golden is a somewhat ambiguous term. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. That I guess I was just saying that was kind of what I was mentioning at the beginning of the discussion. So
Yeah, and there's so many different shades of it too.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And well, the key aspect of golden that art is not going to be able to really capture is the metallic sheen, right? That is in physical reality. You can definitely artwork the sheen into it, and that will have a meaning, right? But no, it that's not exactly the 100% the same, right? So gold by nature is going to have, and it's going to be counterintuitive, but whenever somebody has gold in an artwork, it's going to be like it's going to have an inherent buff because they're trying to capture gold that they can experience in real life. Does that make sense? So that's
Yes.
partially why gold is kind of unique. Uh, is because gold itself is unique in real life because of that metallic yellow, but because it can't translate it to the art specifically, and the fact that they are trying to translate it to the artwork, it's the fact that they're adding extra effort to try to capture it. That's where it gets that little extra buff into it.
Mm. Mm.
So
Mm. Okay, that's very cool. That's very cool. That's very
Yes.
cool. I see what you're saying.
Yes. And it sounds kind of paradoxical because like, but I guess the key point is in the human psychology of it, of the individual wanting to experience that sensation, right? Or trying to feel that experience. So that's the key point. So
Is and that's the content point. It's like that's what they were reaching for.
yeah,
They were reaching for that sensation. And like when we interpret the art, even if it doesn't have that metallic sheen, but we know they were trying to go for gold anyways, it's like we know they were reaching for it. And so some part of us reaches for it too. It's like,
yeah,
and that's the interpretation.
yeah,
Okay, I liked it. That was really good.
yeah.
That's really good. Okay.
So so he's not wrong, but the reason why he's not wrong, like he doesn't know the reason why he's not wrong. Does that make sense? So
Yeah, he's kind of right.
he's right, but doesn't know why he's right.
Why he's right. Yeah.
So as
Okay,
for
very good.
and I guess one point, as for if gold meshes with indigo, that's debatable. Anyway, continue on.
Okay, on we go.
On we go.
Okay, blue. Okay, golden is ambiguous term, perhaps a yellow or orangish color. Newton took the classical view that gold had a close affinity to red as well. And I can see it, but I can't see it without. And this goes back. Go ahead.
I guess two things. I saw something on a science video. If you actually break apart gold down to the point where it like dissolves in a liquid, it actually turns red. Its harmonic frequency is actually red, which is fascinating. Um, I don't want to get too deep into that quite yet. Uh, but I guess on the surface, uh, the reason I guess I can surmise why gold and red connect together so well is that they tend to amplify royal. Like they've always had a connection with royalty whenever they're
Yes.
together, right? Red would be the control aspect. Gold would be the value aspect. So, uh, basically, when you say I have what I want is the most important thing. I am the most important thing. That's kind of red being like this is my worldview, and this is and gold being like, well, this is what I want. So they're kind of saying the same thing, but from different directions. But I guess in the same bubble, they're saying the same things. That's a better way to look at it.
Yes. It's like within that there's a paradigm. There is a timeline. There's a context in which the two approach express a very similar value set.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the gold. It's okay. It's almost like the gold is the prize of the red emotions. It's like the red is like because of this control, because of me being me, because of me wanting value, because of me wanting the highest thing. Basically, what I want is golden. Like this is what I want. This
Yes.
royalty, like this is it, right? And so
Yes.
like we're one married like happy family here.
Yes.
Us red and gold.
Yes. And that's
Okay,
kind
I
of
see that.
yep. And that's why and that connects to the royalty aspect because if you're the top of the food chain, you've achieved everything, you have everything, you want everything. So it kind of connects together. So
You get all the gold.
you get all the gold.
You get all the gold. Yeah.
Yes.
That's I like it. I like it.
Yes.
That makes good sense. You tie that because I was really struggling. I'm like red gold, like where? Like that makes good sense to me.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
He also had a belief, seemingly, that there's a harmony of gold and indigo or blue that is related not only to the musical skill, but also to the frequency of these colors being combined in regalia. So you know the frequency with which you see blue images like on kings or like royalty. like blue and gold, right? The blue and gold combo,
Yeah.
one of my favorite combos. He's saying, first of all, on Pinterest, I saw an image that said, I don't know what I mean, or I can't explain it, but these two colors are married, right? And they'll put some colors together. And one of those color combinations that was the most frequent I saw in there was gold and blue. They were
Yeah.
like, these two colors are married. I don't understand why. I was talking. I did a reading for somebody. I did Kenja, blue and gold, right? An
Mm-hmm.
INTP girl from India, right? Blue and gold.
Wow.
Me, blue and gold, right? So blue and gold, and like
Mm-hmm.
blue and gold. Isaac Newton is like, there's something about indigo, blue and gold that there's something about them, right? He's like, there's something about them, and then he's like, they're combined very often in regalia, like royalty, like nobility, like lots of flags and stuff. And then
Yeah.
later on, he'll talk about how purple slowly starts morphing into blues, like in medieval times and before medieval times, purple and gold, and then purple slowly starts shifting into blue.
Yeah.
And yeah, right. I have that note here. In the Middle Ages, the traditional royal purple of antiquity was replaced by, in many places, by blue. Gold has a closer affinity, according to Newton, than yellow. Yellow never seems to have been regarded as a very noble color in the West until the end of the Middle Ages, and is still not particularly popular even today.
Yeah.
Isaac Newton is the one who placed orange and blue on opposite sides of the color spectrum according to his harmonic theory. And then there's a post here of his harmonic theory.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
Uh, I agree that blue and orange are technically opposites. Because blue is technically the deepest color. Technically, blue is kind of opposite of red, yellow, and orange. All of them are kind of doing similar-ish things. But or if where do I want to start? That's the problem. So the way I always describe blue and orange is that blue is this deep emotionality, right? Where you're trying to go very deep. But orange is very on the surface. You're feeling the emotions, but you're trying to kind of feel them in the moment as fast as possible. And it's different from yellow because yellow is just energy and intensity, right? So if you kind of combine the yellow with the red, when the red is ambition and passion, that's kind of where orange's existence comes from because you're kind of able to give the yellow direction and vice versa. You're able to kind of break red's sense of control, and that's kind of where the surface feelings come from. But orange and blue have this weird effect because they don't necessarily contradict because they're both very emotional and how they interact emotionally. Like neither of them are actually intensely logical. Maybe blue is kind of logical, and that might affect how it works with orange. But initially, the emotions, what happens is that you'll kind of get like a very a, a very intense sensation. Instead of fighting against each other, if you're in a very like deep somber mood, the emotionality of the orange will intensify that somberness to the point where like it feels like you're exploding but cry exploding, or vice versa. Like orange, you'll be extremely zany, happy in the moment, but then all of a sudden the blue comes in and you'll be like, this is the feeling I've been thinking of and hoping for. um, Remember, it's similar to purple and orange, but purple is more mystical. And remember, purple and orange is the closest one to one sensation to harmony, to the feeling of harmony, right? Uh, because they kind of because the emotionality hits the spiritual aspects, and the spirituality touches the emotional aspects. That's I'm trying to keep it simple for quickness. Uh, if we tie this back to gold, right? Blue and gold have a sense of royalty as well, but it's not like red and gold. Red and gold is like I have control, I am number one. Blue and gold is I understand myself. I am the high wizard in a sense. Uh, so it's more like a
An exaltation of the spirit rather than the body.
yes. I would say purple and gold is kind of more like that. Maybe it's more like I am the high alchemist in a way. It's more like you have a sense of unification between how you feel and what you want and what you're thinking. So it's going to have a sense of spirituality with it, but it's not like, and we're really cutting hairs here. It's not going to be like purple, where purple is like I am the leader of the cult of the religion. It's going to be like I am blue and gold is like I am the good guy. I am the hope of the world. So now and
Okay. So purple and gold. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and
Let
and
me
and
try
I
this
have
on.
to make reference just because I have to give some comparison somewhere. But anyway, continue.
Okay, so my question to you. So, okay, is it like red, red, gold, the most embodied, right? The most down here, the most on Earth, the most body, physical and grounded, right? And then
Yeah.
it's like then the purple is kind of a trend. It's here, right down here with the red, right? But then like the example you use was like the oftentimes I see like lots of times like we noted in our color readings that the purple coded villains or the purple coded characters were a little bit more somber, more wise, a little bit more contemplative than the red black
Mm-hmm.
villains, right? There was a
Yeah.
certain kind of depth to them, right? But they were still cult leaders or emperors or something with a bit, but they were also ambitious. They still had that red dog in them, so right?
Yeah.
And and so it's like they're kind of like in the twilight zone, like in the bridge point between the red and then you got the blue, and they're just kind of um not here.
Mm-hmm.
Really, they're not very practical. They're just it's like so it's like the opposite of red, like not practical, like not down here doing anything particularly driven or useful. There's just yearning or whatever. Then you got the purple, which is like the half yearning and then half productive, and then you have the red, which is just all passion and energy and no colts, just make me the
Yeah.
king and give me golden girls.
Yes. Yes. That
Okay.
I would say that is a decent enough description. Uh, just because I had to add the purple because to help compare between what it's doing with red and what it's doing with blue, right? Now, the reason why I bring up the blue and orange is that orange and gold are kind of doing similar-ish things, right? But not necessarily. But their end conclusions are different. So, like red and orange is actually kind of a toxic combination, uh, because of that emotionality. The red is going to be it's like fire, right? It's very explosive. It's like I want that thing, give it to me now. I'm going to take it. So that's not a gold thing, right? Gold is I want that thing. I have that thing. I already own it. Um, and same with purple, gold, and purple and orange, right? You know, purple and gold, you're going to have a sense of oneness and completionist, but it's like you're going to have a type of sense of harmony, but it's not necessarily to the universe. It's towards like I am the harmony of the universe. That's the gold. Whereas the orange is like I am a part of the universe. I feel everything. I am one with everything, right? Because orange is emotionality. Orange doesn't think. That's kind of the part that we have to, I guess, differentiate. Gold can think. Uh, and then I guess if we go to blue and orange, where because they're both fairly emotional, blue and orange, they kind of hype each other up. Blue and gold, they don't, because gold isn't about necessarily feeling the emotion. It's about like the desire and the want. So if you have blue and gold together, you're trying to desire or want these deep feelings of emotions, right? And I'm somewhat oversimplifying it. And that that if when you're in that sense of trying to feel like you want, desire, have those deep feelings and emotions, those deep feelings and emotions are kind of like, I guess if I were to oversimplify it, red and gold would be like harmony of the body. Purple and gold would be like harmony of the spirit. Blue and gold would be like harmony of the mind, right? You feel them, you know who you feel, you know who you are and what you want. And that translates into how you think. I hope that hopefully that works.
Yes, but there's still something that isn't snapping together, but I don't know what it is. I'm like, yes. Like, yes. But something hasn't clicked for me yet, but I don't know what it is that isn't clicking yet. But when it rises to the surface and comes to me, then I'll bring it up either later on in this discussion or
Okay.
in text.
Okay. Yeah.
But yes, I do like.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Maybe write it down just in case, I guess.
I do. I should have put my
Yeah.
pencil somewhere. I'll make a note of it on this.
Yeah. And I feel like I had to oversimplify some of it, just because I guess it was one of those moments I didn't want to get down into the weeds of it, because man, oh, I'm over explaining now, but essentially,
Yeah. Because we're trying to balance now doing this on trying to upload these right with the discussions.
right.
Like,
But
where do we draw the line?
where do you draw
Right.
the line? But I guess one
Brevity.
thing I've learned is that if you over explain something, it makes people have a harder time learning. So I try not to over explain if I can avoid it. So
Okay, it's starting to rise out of my subconscious now. Kind of some of the quandaries I'm having, and and I understand that from an ultimate and a cosmic sense, the artifiction, the the categories, the separations are artificial. Between thinking and feeling, between sensing and because they all at that point they just kind of all merge together.
yeah,
And so it's not so much that orange is not thinking and that gray, for example, is thinking. It's that in relation to gray, orange is not thinking, and in relation to orange, gray is not feeling. In relation to orange, gray is not feeling, right? It's in relation, like to each other, dichotomies, so that we can communicate meaningfully, right? Without.
right.
And so it's like, okay,
Finding a way to compare. Yeah.
Yep. So with that framework in mind, I'm thinking. Let me go back to the statement. It's like, okay, so orange is about the way we would define it, the way we would describe it in our readings is it's experiencing the emotion for the sake of experiencing, like just the act of sitting there and bathing in the emotion makes you feel more alive. Like it sets you on fire, and you're like, even if. And then for some people, they like orange. Like me, I like orange with blue, and I like orange with deep green. Those are my favorite combinations with orange. Orange and blue, orange and deep green. I don't orange and black. To be honest, I like orange and black. I don't like it with anything else. Yep, I don't like it with anything else. And so it's like it's like I like this. It's like either I like for somebody who likes orange with every color, just orange everywhere. It's like I like being on fire. I like the experience of being human, of feeling the feelies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody who likes it with red, or someone who likes it with purple. They're like, I like this emotion to be set on fire. I like this, and but
Yeah.
it's not. But in relation to other colors, it sounds like okay. If gray and orange do opposite things, like in your reading, then orange is the least contemplative, the least logical, the least reflective, the most directly in tune with the emotional
Almost.
experience of the colors. Almost.
Almost. Almost. There are two things I have to point out. So, yellow, yellow is the most emotional because that's just pure energy, right? So, but like at that level, you're going kind of like into maybe like quarkness, right? It's just instant, light, energetic. That's why yellow gets associated with happiness so much.
Ooh, and now we're running
Yeah.
into the white problem
Mm-hmm.
because it's the same thing. It's light. It's this like this light I have right here. Like it's kind of whitish, but it's also kind of yellow.
Yeah.
The sun, kind of white, kind of yellow. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And that's they all kind of do similarish things, right? Which is part of the reason I, which is what partially what I had to try to sort out. so so, but if this might help, orange. I usually if I'm going into other personality systems, orange I associate most closely with the SE function.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like that's why I always like ESFP or ESTP, especially ESTP. Ironically, I'm like probably orange because ESTP is like do first, think later. So
Yep. My
yeah.
ESTP brother's his favorite color is yellow,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have an ESFP sister, and she likes orange. She's not one of her favorite colors, but she likes orange, orange and red, orange and red. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, and now the second thing I have to mention is that orange is an emotional color, but blue is also an emotional color. They're just on different ends of the emotionality. Orange is very on the surface, right? You're experiencing it in the moment, in the now. Blue is very deep, very long term, very wide. So uh, that's why that's why blue and orange sync up, even though they're opposites. Because emotionally they're opposite, but they they're the kind of emotions they experience are different. So
It's almost like blue is a blue to the extent that blue is analytical and logical. It's so on accident. It's just so because it's so deep, and if your mind wants to reach that emotion, it's a ping, like a ping from the depth of the ocean, right? It's like ping, and then your mind is up here. It's your conscious mind is as far away from the depth of the ocean as you can consciously get. So it's like if your mind wants to reach the ping, it can't stop at the yellow, it can't stop at the white, it can't stop. Like it has to go do 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 do, and so it accidentally just by virtue of trying to see what's down there and try to think about it, it accidentally ends up being logical. But that's not the point. The point was to get to the emotion, and it accidentally had to, because we humans think in symbols, it accidentally had to encode that experience in symbols and logic and if this then that. But that's not what it was. Unlike gray, that's not what it was trying to do.
yeah, yeah. So blue tries to blue ends up being very thinking because it's trying to access that emotion. So, but it's kind of weird if you're a thinker type. You're probably going to like blue because that's what you're doing. But if you're a feeler type, you're going to feel those deep emotions, but you're not going to be able to express them. You're going to be sad. You're going to be isolated. You're going to be introverted, but you're not going to be able to explain why because it's too deep for you to express it. So, because the reverse is true as well. So,
All right, that is a huge topic for another day. Let's keep
for
moving.
another day.
Yeah, I can tell if we go down that rabbit hole, there will be no sleep tonight.
You can always write questions to me if you'd like, and hopefully I can
Oh,
answer.
and I'll tell you what. So I'm not so neurotic about it. Give me just a moment. I'm gonna grab the pencil I
Mm-hmm.
thought I had right here. As we do this more, we'll get better. I'll get better because I don't know what I if I mess with something on the screen, like what it'll change in the recording.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I will say that on my end, your camera is kind of coming in and out, so you'll stop randomly, so it's not smooth. But
Okay.
your sound is coming through well. So
All right. I'm sharing internet with my siblings, so I don't know how easy it will be to remedy that, but we'll work on it as we go along. Thank, thank you for letting me know.
yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna. We'll have a orange, blue thoughts, emotions.
Yep. Yep.
Thoughts, emotions. Okay. Let's see if we can burn through these next few in 15 to 20 minutes. Let's see.
Yes.
Let's,
Maybe highlight some of your favorites, I guess.
okay. Well, the harmony, colors, classical, gold, close affinity to red. That's what we wore before. Let's see. Harmony, gold, regalia, Middle Ages, royal purple, moved to blue, yellow, not particularly popular. Or oh yes, Isaac Newton, who placed orange and blue on the opposite sides, and that's why we got to that topic. Orange and blue
Yeah.
on the opposite sides of the color spectrum. What that means. Okay, this is actually the last note. We made it. The non-standard observer. A good note. A good note to end the first chapter on when we have a guy here named Observer. Observer. All right.
Observer.
The non-standard observer would be an observer. According to the author, one of the reasons why lots of scientific students of color don't draw on the experience of artists of art is that artists don't have a lot of status. They are kind of weird and commercially insignificant. Aristotle, however, recognized that the artists in the dye industry were very sensitive. That the artisans in the dye industry were very sensitive to the difficulties that came with matching them. Two artists, Turner and Matisse. Matisse, I think, is the guy who who drew paintings titled like Purple, for example. He wrote lots of purple images. Two non-standard observers' ability to mix and match and integrate colors continue to evolve and develop throughout their lives into old age. So he contrasts them with two other artists and many other artists who he feels like as they got older, there were some artists he mentioned before these two that as they got older, their paintings become more simplified and less dynamic, and he doesn't know if to what degree that's a result of them getting older and suffering from maybe loss of visions and cataracts, or to what extent that becomes them finding a niche and pigeonholing themselves and being like, I'm satisfied with where I've come and I just want to explore this aspect of as far as I've come. And then he
Yeah.
notes these two other artists that even as they got older, their understanding and their ability to play with colors continued to evolve despite their old age, not seeming to suffer mentally or visually with the way they relate to colors. So color and context. Okay. Last note. It is the author's opinion that studying the artwork of the past can help better inform scientific data, which can then in turn improve the quality of artistic works and aid in our understanding of why and how we like colors and use them the way we do. It is his opinion that understanding of colors has developed very little in the last century because we are far too concerned with the strictly empirical and scientific aspects of color, and not so much with the subjective, personal aspect of colors and the way they are used in our everyday lives. That is the end of chapter 1. What are your thoughts, impressions, feelings, observations?
I can see it. I can see it. I guess if I do a levels framework, right? Usually the science and philosophy and usually starts at level 5, right? And at that point, there's kind of a break where you're like, you try to kind of cut your. That's the first step in you being like, no, I don't have to feel the way that I feel. I can be whoever I want to be, right? So when you're trying to gather data on scientific principles, you're using the logic half of your brain, right? And at that point, you when you try to systemize an individual, you're going to lose context, kind of like when we discussed about language. But as you go up the levels, you begin to realize, okay, how do you blend the two, right? Kind of like how I mentioned before. Uh, and I think the biggest aspect is how oh it's more important to try to understand the individual and how they feel rather than what they think, because technically emotion everything and technically everything is emotion, right? If you get down to like the atoms and molecules, it all comes out as an emotion. It's all an emotion first before it becomes a thought. And so science is trying to, if they're using logic, they're trying to gauge color and artistry by logic, which is therefore by thoughts. But in order to really understand how the individual works, you kind of have to go against what science is fully saying and understand how the emotional pathways work. And in my view, all colors does is just help track what the emotion is saying. So you can use colors scientifically, but it's kind of like using symbols in a language. You have to understand the other symbols to understand what the main symbol is saying. So,
And like even and it was interesting, right? It was interesting because even while you said that, it's more important to understand how a person feels, to understand a person's feelings rather than a person's thought.
mm-hmm.
Like, even though I agreed with that, like conceptually, emotionally, I noticed I had a very like visceral reaction, like an annoyance with that fact. I was like, I was annoyed that that was true. Right, I could feel it. Like my demon function was just like FE inferior, and my FI demon was just like, ew, gross, right? I felt it. It was very interesting. I could see it down there. But I do agree with that, right? That is, I think, going back to the problem with Gage, I think it was, or the, I'm not, oh, what was it? I don't think it was Gage. Who was the gentleman who got hit by the, who got hit by the, who got hit by the steel beam that came through his brain, like it ruined his, no, was that someone else? The guy whose the emotional center of his brain was screwed, and he
Oh,
was,
Elliot.
Elliot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he couldn't make any decisions because it's like he could think just fine, but he had no emotional uh
Yeah.
access really. So it took hours to even decide like which pen. In the worst, like back when in the worst of my dissociative period, it would take me an eternity to decide what to eat. When I would hate having to go to Sonic's or anywhere because I could not decide like what kind of drink,
Mm-hmm.
because I would be like every menu at every restaurant, like I processed and I processed and I processed, and my I was so far removed from my emotional the information provided to me by my emotions
Mm-hmm.
that I would turn what should have just been a very rudimentary ritual into like every, no matter where we went, no matter what we were doing, no matter how many times we had been there before, I would always tell everybody, do all your ordering first, and I'll order last. And even then, sometimes Ray would be like, "Okay, do you have yours yet?" I'd be like, uh, you know,
Right.
because
Right.
and I didn't have it as bad as he did because my brain's not, that part of my brain isn't wrecked.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's like every thought grows from a soil, and that soil in the end is going to be our embodied human experiences. It's like we have
Mm-hmm.
animals, like we have animals, we have reptiles, we have instincts, and they all act on instinct. They all act like in case of like the trees, in case of bacteria, in case of some more more primitive creatures, we may not call like the strength of like of the of the resonance of whatever instincts they have. We might not label them as emotions yet
Yeah.
necessarily. It still behaves as if though they have what we would designate as humans as emotions. It's like they'll pursue things, they run away from things as if they're in fear, they wriggle as if they are in pain, right?
Yeah.
Uh they act towards things as if they have ambition, right? And it's like as the creature becomes more complex and as they develop, bigger brains and more centers and more neurons and whatever, it's like the the resonance builds to a point to where we can identify and we can look at it and it becomes like an emotional affect, something we can actually experience in our bodies. No longer something that just influences our instinctual behaviors. Now we can actually feel it, inside of us, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think this is the case of I guess in a cosmic scale everything's degree, not kind, so to speak. But I feel it's closer here. It's like it's like the bacteria and something. There's a sense I think which we could say they do have emotions, right? In a certain depend if we want to be kind of flexible with that term.
Yeah.
And so if bacteria have emotions, right, and they just compile and they just keep building up and they become primitive creatures and they become cats and primates and those can become us. And it's like just like the cats, they have their instincts and they fight with each other and they want food and they like some cats and they hate other cats. It's like it's all emotional. It's like we have all that. Like we're all that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like all of our thoughts and all of our logic and all of our systems and all of our science and what we pay attention to and what we love and what we hate and what colors we like. And this is one of the important things of your color system is that kind of cuts through a lot of that. And it's just like and it cuts down to that animal, more of that animal part of us, that
Yeah.
that emotional, that stuff that's deeper down. And it's just like what hues, what colors and tones draw your attention to it, and then push you away, right?
Right. Right.
So, yeah,
Yeah. And it's not something like that's conscious either. It's all subconscious, right? And then I guess one point that you kind of mentioned, isn't it amazing that we are the way that we are, that we're at a point in humanity where we can look inwards and actually start observing our own emotional pathways, our own logical pathways, right? Like just being an animal, like who who feels the experience and just does, right? Without second guessing, right? Uh, or third guessing, or fourth guessing, or fifth guessing. Um, I guess it's just fascinating that we're at a time now where we can look inwards, recognize the emotional pathways, and even recognize like where we gravitate towards subconsciously, uh, and that's kind of like the basis of the color theory right there. So it's just fascinating stuff.
that is fascinating stuff, and we've just ended where we began at the basis of a color theory and how it got
Yes.
started. And so I guess I'll close off my end of the recording here,
Okay. I will close
and
off mine as well.